So I wanted to talk about some of the education initiatives because it's not just about spending, and I'm wondering if you are optimistic that there will be true education reform.
Absolutely. I think that there's a real window of opportunity for folks to come together. Everyone's interested in improving our failing schools, student performance overall. The teachers' unions have put forward their own proposals, as have advocates, as have charter schools, and I think there's a willingness for folks to come together. It's going to be a bumpy road. I mean, let's face it, it's a road that we've been down before. There are lessons learned at the national level. No Child Left Behind didn't work out exactly like folks intended, even though there were good intentions. So if we don't repeat those mistakes, I think we can have some real positive reform in Connecticut.
I mean, I know there's a big public hearing on Tuesday about a lot of the education reform proposals, including teacher tenure, which I would imagine would draw a big crowd, and I know that will likely be one of the bumpy spots on the road that you talked about. And I'm wondering whether you hear from your constituents who are teachers about their concerns about it.
I mean, I'm sure that Senator Williams and most of our colleagues have heard from their teachers groups, and I have meetings set up next week and the week after to meet with people in my district. I mean, they're concerned about the state of education because teachers, the really good teachers, they just want to educate the kids and prepare them to go out into the future, and that's what they want. And good teachers are not going to be punished by any law we make or don't make, because they're good teachers. But we want to be able to give towns a little more flexibility in developing their teachers. I mean, I know one of the governor's proposals was with the continuing education credits. They have these in-service days, and all the teachers sit there all day with things that maybe they don't need to hear, and maybe you have one weakness and I have a different weakness, so maybe we'll address those and be more efficient about how it works.
Did the governor put too much attention, though, on tenure? He rolled out every other aspect of his reform plan before the State of the State address, and he left tenure for that speech. And so that sort of put a spotlight on it. Is that really the most important element of education reform this year?
No, I would say that it's not. I would say that it's certainly a component. But we want to get the resources to the children that need it. We want to improve education for children, and we wanted to do it in a fair way. So I agree with Themis. Teachers, they want the best for their students. We don't want to demonize teachers, but ultimately we want the greatest fairness to be for the children who deserve a first-class education in Connecticut.
As a Democrat, though, and I agree with you about tenure taking maybe too large a role here.
But that's the sexy part of the whole
deal.
deal.
But the governor, you had the governor here saying that basically to get tenure, you show up for work and warm the chair. That's what really rang the bell of the teachers' unions, that it's a job for life. What do you think about that?
Well,
either of you.
It's not. I mean, I've talked to superintendents who have removed many teachers who needed to be removed. Now, they have to document it. They have to do the required paperwork. It's not simple. And some will say, yes, things could be changed to make it somewhat easier. But interestingly, what I've heard from superintendents is that we need to walk a fine line here, because on the one hand, we want greater teacher accountability and more quality educators in the classroom, no question, and to elevate the teachers that we have through better training to bring them along. At the same time, though, these superintendents have told me we don't want to chase people away, good people away from the teaching profession. We want to continue to draw the best and the brightest to this profession.
But and I've raised those questions, and the response that I've gotten back from the administration is that they say the most important thing you can do is to have a good teacher in front of the classroom. And to have a good teacher in front of the classroom, you got to give schools the authority to remove the bad teachers.
And I think that's the crux of this. I think that people in other professions will look at it and say, oh, I'm an attorney and I've been there a certain amount of years. That doesn't mean I can't get fired if I don't do my job. And I think tenure per se is not a bad idea, but I think the way it's structured may need to be changed. Okay, because I think that it may be a little too simple or maybe too easy to get there. I think to make it more difficult to get there and allow those superintendents and the principals and the school districts to say, listen, you're not doing the job, you shouldn't be here. Maybe you'd be better doing something else. Maybe this isn't your thing.
Let's also talk about, I know that the Democrats have unveiled a power plan, and tell me about it.
We're very interested coming out of the extraordinary year we had last year with the fairly horrendous winter, a hurricane. I'm not even going to talk about the earthquake that some of us felt, that freak snowstorm in October, and the loss of power to hundreds of thousands of people in this state. So we need greater energy security. We need performance standards for our utilities so that we know that they have the staffing, the emergency plans in place, and when they make predictions about getting people back up and on the grid, that they meet those projections, and if not, that there are penalties. In addition, microgrids, and that we're talking about using things like fuel cells that are made here in Connecticut to power hospitals, police stations, fire stations, supermarkets, gas stations, the type of facilities we need, citizens need when the power goes out, and a variety of other initiatives as well. For example, some common sense things. You know, we talk about the need to put lines underground to those facilities where we want the power to stay on, but why not do this in a coordinated way so that when a city or a town or the state's tearing up a road because they're resurfacing it, or a city or a town is putting down new water or sewer lines, let's coordinate that with the other work where the greatest expense is tearing up the road, so we only do it once.
You know, or have the power companies, you know, force the electric companies to work with municipalities and train some of the municipality workers, you know, as civilians in a sense, to be able to handle some of the minor things. And, you know, clearly we weren't prepared for it because it's not something that has happened in any of our lifetime. Okay, so I understand that, but having said that, going forward, we now realize it's something we need to be prepared for, and those little things combined can make a big difference in the result that we get.
Yeah, I think this will be largely bipartisan. I don't think this is Democrat or Republican. This just is common sense.
People who want electricity. Rick, what do you want to talk about?
Well, you know, I could talk about education all day. Let me ask just one more education question. Sure. Is there anything that you think, Don, that's non-negotiable that has to be done this year? Because there's going to be a lot of compromising. But is there something that, you know, we can't wheel and deal on?
I don't think that anyone should come to the table with a my way or the highway attitude. And you know, I've got to have this. It's non-negotiable, and that's that. I mean, I do think that we should not be looking at towns to take cuts, and no one's talking about that. So that's not an issue that's on the table. Well, Norwalk, right? I understand that in recent hours that has been addressed, but no, I think folks should come to the table with open minds.
This is, you know, the fiction for the short session is supposed to be a fiscal thing, but it obviously there's a million things that come up. Should minimum wage come up? Connecticut already has the second highest in New England, higher than New York, Massachusetts, all the, you know, the surrounding states. Is this?
You know, again, I would say that that's not our top priority. I'm happy to look at that. I know that there are some legislators who are interested in pushing that forward. I'm very proud of
including the Speaker of the House.
Yeah. I'm very proud of what we did last year with the EITC, the Earned Income Tax Credit, that helps low-income folks in Connecticut in a very powerful way. So we have not, you know, let these issues be unaddressed.
How about the death penalty?
Well, from what I'm hearing, we might be doing it again.
You know, it's really going to come down to getting the votes.
We lose the education session if it's death penalty.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think those things are priorities. I think, you know, just going back to the fiscal stuff for a second, I just think that is the priority above and beyond everything else, because it just everything trickles down from it. I mean, you can't have new education initiatives unless the money's in order. You can't have different things where we need to put money in unless the budget's in order. And the budget, you know, the treasurer's saying we're in a deficit, the governor's saying, oh no, that's not really true. I mean, you know, using money for day-to-day expenses, that's not, you know, you can't operate a government that way, and that's what we have to figure out.
If the votes are there on the death penalty, we'll take a vote on it. But our top priority is going to be jobs in the economy.
All right. We could have talked all night, but we appreciate you being here. Thanks, all of you, for being here.